Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever or whenever you happen to be listening to this. Thank you for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I'm your host, Abuja based event and wedding photographer Tavishima Ayede. First off, I'd like to apologize because I've been off the air for roughly about 2 weeks, and that's because the kids went on holiday, and mea culpa, it's my fault. I didn't plan as I should have, and so I was caught unawares. I mean, basically, I dropped off the kids one day, and then the school admin is like, "Oh, are you showing up for the end of year presentation?" And I'm like, "What? Holidays already?" And of course, I hadn't planned, come up with a new plan accordingly for how I would go about making the recordings with the kids at home and running around 247. I guess since we were done with the whole COVID wahala, well, COVID is still alive in this part of the world, and we're still trying to deal with that. But basically, a lot of schools, public and private, have come up with ways for kids to come back to school safely or relatively safely. And I just got lulled into that false sense of security, having that that steady schedule that you get into for those of us who are self-employed anyway, where you drop the kids off in school and you have enough time if you work at home or if you have an office. Basically, you have a couple of hours cordoned off to yourself to do stuff like recording podcasts if you are one of those people who have a podcast like I do. So anyway, they were home, and unfortunately, I had gigs lined up that whole holiday period. Luckily, mom was around because my wife is back in school, whole adult education thing, learning about interesting things in capital markets and finance, because that is the sphere that she's involved in: law, capital markets, finance, financial regulation, those sorts of things. Really interesting stuff. Where was I? Okay, yes. And so I had a busy week because I had a few things to do, weddings and the sort. And then after that, we decided to go to the villa because we missed Easter, but all the cousins were at home, and so the kids would get to see all their, all their cousins and people that they haven't seen over the last year or two. So look at me thinking, you get to the villa, more hands, I would have more time to catch up on work and podcasts, and lo and behold, a couple of my cousins, also thinking the same way, pretty much just dropped the kids with grandma and, took off to do whatever it is that parents do whenever they need a break. And so they all just dropped the kids at home. And so we had loads of kids running around, and I had to supervise pretty much 6 kids almost every day. Yeah, there was some help, but, since 2 of the kids were mine, I was particularly vested in making sure that no harm was coming their way. And well, anyway, to cut long matter short, let's just say I didn't plan for this, and that's why I was gone for 2 weeks. But I have learned my lesson, and I'm going to learn how to make more ad hoc recording sessions in the future. So do not be surprised or offended if at some point in the future I'm making a recording and you hear 6 children or 10 or 14 in the background. I'm just going to prioritize making sure that we have episodes available rather than making sure everything is perfect and spick and span and there's no noise in the background. I think I'd rather focus on consistency rather than being blindsided by stuff and then having to disappear for another week or two. So that's the promise that I'm making to you guys. I'm back now from my annual leave, in quote, and I'm not going to disappear anytime soon because now I have a new plan, and that new plan is pretty much record whenever and wherever you can, and just keep the microphone close to your mouth, and hopefully the noise of the other people in the compound or whatever I happen to be involved in the middle of won't cut into the experience. But then again, if it is going to ruin the experience for you guys, if and when those things happen, please reach out, let me know, and I'll come up with another plan. After all, isn't that what life is all about? Making plans, readjusting, taking feedback, and charting a new course. Okay, so let's go on to what we're going to discuss for today. And it's something that I have a very strong personal opinion on. I'm going to use a couple of episodes to flesh that out. And it's regarding the issue of contracts. For those of you who've been on the podcast for a while, you remember that I used to be based in Lagos, and so I can say with certainty that in Lagos and Abuja, there seems to be this fascination with tidying things up with contracts, and understandably so. That's because lots of wedding vendors, wedding professionals, whatever it is you want to call yourself, have been involved in situations where we had one set of expectations, they had other sets of expectations, and after delivery, there was plenty of quarrel about who delivered what, if things were up to spec, and that's because we didn't have a defining document to say what the specs are, what success looks like, and if things go south, what should you do to redress. And so, because of that, a lot of people place in Abuja and Lagos that I've run into. Maybe I should just stick to Abuja because I've been out of Lagos for I think close to 7 years now. So maybe the mood has changed amongst the wedding vendors that I used to know back then. So a lot of emphasis is placed on contracts. I've spoken at a few wedding planning academies, and there's always that section on contracts and paperwork. People passing around templates that they think are supposed to solve problems. Well, first of all, let me give this general caveat, this general warning. There is no magic bullet. There is no magic contract template that you're going to use that is going to solve any problem, for a number of reasons that we're going to get into in the future. But for now, if you're one of those contract people, disabuse your mind. You're not going to speak to Kelechi Amadi and get his contract, and because you're using his contract, everything will be fine. Or you're not going to go online and look for Jasmine Star or any celebrity wedding photographer or celebrity planner in your space. You're not just going to take that template, use that in your process, and everything is going to be fine. Whatever template you find, things are going to have to be personalized. And this is one of the areas where I start ranting and I stand on my soapbox. How do you know how to personalize a contract, or what you should emphasize, or what should be important to you? And for me, it always ties back to the sales process. If you have a well thought out sales process, these are the people I'm trying to attract. These are where I think I can find them. When I find them, this is how I think we should start conversations with them. During conversations, these are the important things to raise so that we can seal the deal. After we seal the deal, this is how we're going to execute and deliver. And after delivery, this is how we're going to follow up to be sure there's not that there are no loose ends and problems that we need to address. Now, when you have thought through all these processes and try to come up with a template for doing that, and of course you test it, market validation, that's really important for me. So you test it because you've been working on multiple brides and grooms. After a while, you find a pattern that begins to emerge. So maybe in your practice, you find out that time for delivery becomes an issue for you and your clients. That's because normally you take 3 weeks to deliver, or let's say 3 months. But people are used to 1 week delivery. They assume that 1 week or a matter of days would be okay, or maybe 3 weeks or whatever. So it's from that interaction that you're going to now find out that okay, these are the key things in your sales process that you have to hit to make sure that you score a win. And so because of that, you'll now know that this is something in your contract template that you need to amend. But the bottom line is, it is sales process first over contract templates. For those of you who are getting ready to start the business anew, stop running around looking for magic contract templates online or from superstars and stuff like that. You will meet some people that do have a franchise model to their business. For instance, Sue Bryce, celebrity. Should we call her a celebrity photographer? Well, photographer anyway. Australian lady, real good at what she does. As far as I know, she doesn't shoot weddings anymore, mostly portraits. But she has a franchise method for how she runs her business. And so if you're one of her disciples or one of her students, it's all tailor-made. She has a sales process that you're supposed to follow. And then, of course, there are contract templates and paperwork and everything that runs with that. So if you're with one of those kinds of setups, it's absolutely fine, because they also have a sales process that has been created to run along with this as well. So you're not just moving around in the dark. But if you're not a part of this kind of setup and you're a wedding professional and you're just moving around reaching for contract templates, you'll find all kinds of templates that might end up even causing much more problems for you, because there are some contract templates that have indemnification clauses, would not only say that if things go wrong, this is what I, the wedding photographer, is going to do to you to make it right with you, but also has provisions there like, in the event that 1, 2, 3, and 4 happens, I, the wedding photographer, should be indemnified. And of course, that makes a lot of business sense. But the average person, our average bride and groom here in Nigeria, sees that and they think to themselves, what? They are expecting that if 1, 2, 3, and 4 happens, that I should pay them money, even though I have already paid them for a service. And so something that shouldn't have been an issue before will now become an issue now, because you have the bride call you up saying, what do you mean by this indemnification clause? Please explain. And of course, you are not a lawyer. You have very little experience in the law. You were just fishing around for a contract template anyway. And then you have that bewildered look, and you're stammering and stuttering, and you don't know what to say or what to do, because you were looking for contract templates, and okay, it's a contract. It's a template that has worked for A, B, and C photographer, and so they're extremely popular and successful. So you figured it will work for you as well. But now you have this bege where every time you send it out, an angry bride or groom is calling you back to say, "What do you mean? I've already given you 250K as deposit, and you're saying that if so and so kind of accident happens and your lens crack, I will now have to pay you an additional 500K. What do you mean? In fact, give me back my deposit. I don't want to." And all those kinds of scenarios. So, for people who have those kinds of indemnification clauses in their contract, they have a sales process that anticipates those kinds of challenges and already works people through the whole process. So these are some of the reasons why I say sales process first. When you're done tidying up the sales process, you can worry about your contracting and what the other paperwork is going to be on the back end. I'm not saying these things are not important. Believe me, they are very important, because we need to clarify expectations. But what we need to work on is our sales process first. So, I've done more than 10 minutes and I'm going to leave it here. I still have a few more items lined up about this topic that I would like to talk about. So, we'll get to that in other episodes. So, thank you very much, guys, for listening to the Sales for the Nigerian Wedding Industry podcast. I will catch you guys on the next episode.